You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 161 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my book-loving friend, Jeff Burgess.
Book-loving, I like that.
You are book-loving.
Why book-loving? Is it because there's a bunch of books back there?
Well, it's not because you have a lot of books back there. It's because I think we talked a lot about books in this episode, and I also want to talk about some more books in our introduction, if you don't mind.
Okay. I know what book we talked about in our episode.
Yes.
What more books are we talking about in the introduction?
So here's my plan. I had this all laid out, Jeff Burgess. You can actually just go take a nap. If you want to go relax somewhere,
Done.
That's totally fine.
I'm already sleeping.
Good. I would like to do another shout out, but I get to pick who it is. I want to shout out Mrs. Shelley Burgess.
Is there any world in any situation in any universe where I'm going to not want to shout out Shelley?
I know I literally still don't have the guts to speak to her yet because I have her so high on a pedestal. She walks in the room and it's like silence goes through the room. They all turn and everyone just applauds. No, she's awesome.
I remember when you first met Shelley. It was.
Yeah.
Do you want to recall that story, or do you want me to recall that story?
I think you're going to tell a story about how I was really cool, calm, and collected. And, right? Isn't that what you remember?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I am not going to tell a story where after we left, you said that you felt like you were at Disneyland sitting across the table from Mickey Mouse.
It was!
Because that's how famous she is.
Okay, guys, let me preface. We were at an amazing conference, Summer Spark, in Wisconsin. And we were sitting at dinner with these amazing educators. I can fangirl out like the best of them, y'all. And it was an amazing table. And so we got up and Tiffany and Jeff are like cool, calm, and collected. No big deal. And I'm like, guys, that was like being at Disneyland.
Which then led to me unsuccessfully trying to pry out of you who each character would be. You didn't fold.
Well, you'd be Goofy, just to confirm.
Well, I'm pretty sure we established that, and that was it. But yes, that was the first time we met Shelley. I had prior to that, I had already developed. At that point, it was crazy. Before I even met her in person, I had already developed. I felt like Shelley was just one of my best friends in the world because she just does that. When you start chatting with her, I was the one who sort of had the initial conversation with her that led to us working with her and stuff. So I just ended up having sort of points on that conversation. So I got to then have a lot more of the conversations with her, and just, we did. And she's always so big on let's do a video chat. So it's a video chat, and you get to know her, and you're in her backyard, and you're chatting, or the family's running around or whatever. And it's just, she's just I consider her now one of my dear friends. She is just, not to mention she's also someone who helped us create and deliver, the Teach Better book, and her and Dave were such a massive part in the success of the first Teach Better conference. And that conversation I think sums up Shelley. Is she said, "Let me know what you need. Dave and I are here for you." And it was just like a blanket, whatever we can do to help you. And then they just went, and then some other authors reached out, and like a Tara Martin and stuff. And Ryan Sheehy and everything, and Adam obviously came too.
She can just make you feel like $1 million.
She does, yes.
She just
yes.
It's like the whole world shuts down, and she's totally focused on you. I mean, that was, yes. I will always remember Friday night of the Teach Better conference. She took me aside and she's like, "I'm so excited to publish your next book with Adam. Welcome." And literally it was like the entire universe stopped, and you're just loving this moment of, oh my gosh, we had this great conversation. She's just so genuine and generous. I love people like that.
You know what the best part is? She and I initially connected. We were in a Twitter chat. I don't know what the chat was. I don't know if it was her lead lap chat or something else. It was toward the end of November, right at the end of November, after, I bet it was a couple of days, just those couple of days after Thanksgiving. And we connected via a couple of side tweets about Christmas cookies and ornaments. Mm-hmm. And that was literally how the conversation started, and then I reached out, just, hey, I just want to kind of pick your brain. Maybe we can talk about ornaments and Christmas cookies again. And when the first time we connected, we ended up talking for, like, I don't even know, I mean, easy an hour if not, and it just, grew from there. And so I love that you picked Shelley to do that.
She's amazing.
To shout out today. We love Shelley Burgess, and I mean the entire DBC family, which is a great connection. And I'm assuming I'm sure you were planning this, but it connects to our guest, who is also a DBC author,
member of the DBC family.
Yes. So Stacey Roshan is the author of Tech with Heart, which is a DBC book, amazing one. She's also the director of innovation and education technology in Maryland. She's all about, and she says it better than I will, but she's all about bringing innovative tools into the classroom. She does a lot of work with other teachers, helping them innovate their classroom and engage more with technology. And I love her outlook on how that does and does not play into our current state of things. I think she really sums it up in a really great way, where if you are a technology person who a lot of people are looking at thinking, hey, you should be able to do this really well, but are still having struggles, or you're someone who's not great with technology and is having to learn all this, I think on both ends, Stacey, the way she lays it out, is going to give you the opportunity to give yourself some grace and relax for a minute and be okay with that. We're all still learning. I think it's really, really great. And this is someone who knows what she's doing. So she's got work that's been featured in USA Today, The Washington Post, CNN, PBS NewsHour. I mean, she was named Teacher of the Future by NAIS. And she has a lot of cool experience, both obviously in your traditional classrooms, but also doing online teaching. And she was just so much fun to talk with. I think there was at least 2, if not 15 times where you made a comment about her being like your favorite person in the world.
She is so impressive. I love this episode. That up.
Yes, so I'm going to leave it at that. I think you just said what you need to say. Is she's so impressive. You love this episode. You got something for me.
I just have one awkward comment. Can I just say this, because I didn't get to say this in our interview with her?
Sure.
I really like her book cover. If you you need to go get the book, but
she does have a cool book cover.
I love the book cover. Okay, that's all I needed. Great book, great content, great cover.
I'm glad that was very important. And her book is in the show notes, so you can go get it. Yes. It's a great book. So, and the great cover, apparently. So let's get into episode 161 with Stacey Roshan.
Hey everyone, we're going to get right back to the episode, but I wanted to make sure you had the details of what the team is continuously doing to support all of the educators that are striving to reach their students at a distance. Now, while we will continue to push out content like blogs, podcasts, free downloads, and online courses to support you, we wanted to do more. So you can meet our team live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in our private Facebook group at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern, for a daily drop-in. During this time, we'll be providing PD for all educators and answering your questions to make sure you feel supported. We'll meet you over in our private Facebook group. You can request to join at teachbettergroup.com or simply by searching Teach Better Team on Facebook. We'll meet you there. Now, let's get back to the episode.
All right, we're here and we are talking with Stacey Roshan. And Stacey, so fun to get you on. We've already seen, we were on video slightly right before we hit record, and we got to see your dog, which is always fun. We're talking about the fact that we are sort of, brother, sister, however you want to say, the authors on the DBC label, which is always fun. So we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that. Want to get into your story, learn all about you, and just kind of dive in more. But before we get too deep into that, just want to ask you, how are you feeling right now?
As well as anyone can be feeling right now, I suppose. I mean,
it's a good answer.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but every day that, we wake up healthy and okay, it's a good day.
It really is a crazy time that we are in. Well, Stacey, I'm so excited that you're here on Teach Better Talk. I was really stoked when I looked at the calendar and I was like, oh my goodness, do you have any idea who we're interviewing today for a Teach Better Talk episode? And Jeff was like, yeah, I've been a fan forever. And so we had this weird bonding moment. But I want to make sure our listeners are also connected to you and kind of hear all that you're doing for education, because it's a lot. So if you bumped into somebody and they asked you to describe what you do, what's your typical answer?
Thank you for that. I would say first, I'm a teacher. I'm a math teacher, teach at the high school level, pretty much AP Calculus these days. But, most of my day really is spent working with other teachers and helping them infuse technology into their teaching. But I'm always a teacher at heart. And, for me, I've just been so passionate about finding ways to use technology to really connect with students on a personal level and to help them reach new levels of confidence and success. Especially in my AP Calculus class, I have to push my students hard, but they know that I'm there to support them and help them when they need it. And technology has really played a key role for me in helping them get to that next level of success. I've been able to hear from all students in the room, to understand their unique needs, to further personalize the learning experience. And so that's really part of my biggest goal, is to share my personal journey, the successes that I've had as an educator, and hopefully inspire others.
I really like how you describe what you do. I love that and what your goal is there. So let's talk about, we already sort of touched on sort of the state of the world right now is a little bit crazy, especially, so much in the world of education, how things have shifted so rapidly here. So I'd really love to hear sort of how you're adjusting to that. What pieces are you putting in place, or maybe what pieces did you have in place that you're finding are really valuable right now, or maybe pieces that weren't in place that you had to get in place, and how are you not only working to help your students and your families, but also your colleagues and how to help them utilize the technology that they need to interact with their kids. What's your world look like now in this current state of things?
Yeah, it's been really busy because there's this urgent need as we are in this crisis. And what I've been trying to do the most of is just share my experiences. I have taught in a purely online setting. I taught 3 years of online AP Calculus where we didn't meet face to face. They were students at my school, but it was a purely online class. And so I have a lot of experiences to share. And, in Tech with Heart, the ending of the book, maybe the last third of it, I talk a lot about how teaching online made me a better teacher. It forces you to be so intentional about creating every little thing. And even though I have all this experience teaching as an online teacher, it can't compare to the situation we are in right now, where we're being forced to take something that was designed for a face-to-face setting and make it online. That's not the same as the online course I developed. And actually, I'm teaching a face-to-face class right now. And I've taught online AP Calculus. You would think it would be easy for me. It's not easy at all. But that being said, I'm so excited to be able to share what I know with others as they're looking for it. I can't wait till we get past all of this and we can look at some of this as an opportunity. I do think it's a real opportunity for us to rethink education, how we are assessing, how we are assigning, how we are giving work, how we are interacting with kids and allowing them to interact with one another. Again, right now is not the time to look at it as an opportunity, but I think we will get there. And, what used to be things with my, the teachers that I work with at my school, what used to be kind of like bonus add-ons to enhance the teaching and learning are now essential needs. And so definitely anybody who's in, a tech coaching role, we're all very in demand right now, but it also feels like this huge community of educators, as educators are always this wonderful community of people that are really coming together to try and provide the best experiences and also share experiences and share resources. So for that, I'm very grateful every day.
Oh, there's so much in there that you just said that I love. The fact that it's an opportunity, I think, is really important for us to think about. And I like that you put the caveat, it's not necessarily to think that way right now, but to look for it down the road, right?
Yeah.
And I think a really big thing that you touched on is this. Even though you have a lot of experience with the technology and the implementation of the technology and even teaching online, it's not the same as trying to convert this in-person class to that. And Ray, Ray's known for having such a well-oiled machine in her classroom. And I think a lot of people think that she was just so ready for this, but that's not the same thing. It's different. There's still a lot of shifts, even people who had a lot of pieces in place that maybe made this, for a lack of a better word, easier, maybe a little more smoother transition. It's still a big transition because you touched on it a little bit later on, was that, a lot of what you're doing when we're integrating technology into the classroom, it's enhancing, it's increasing efficiency, right? It's taking a simple lesson and maybe making it a little more complex and engaging. It isn't completely taken over. And right now we have to use the tech to completely become our classroom. And that's such a major shift. So I think it's really important for people who are not, don't consider themselves quote unquote techie or into ed tech to hear someone who literally wrote a book about it say, hey, it isn't super easy. It's okay if you're struggling with it, because we're all still figuring this out, even those that are quote unquote, tech savvy, right? And I think that's really important, a really great piece out there. So with that said, well, you touched on it. I just mentioned it. So, if you wouldn't mind taking just a minute. So your book, we mentioned your fellow DBC author, which it's always awesome to have the family on, right? Tech with Heart. It's leveraging technology to empower student voice, easing anxiety, and create compassionate classrooms. So, can you give us sort of the 1,000-foot overview about the book? Maybe who it's for, who it's really connected with, and what can we expect from it?
Yeah. So for me, I started looking to technology as a solution in my classroom. And that is the approach that I want to share. And I always feel is the best way to look at any problems that we have in our classroom. And that's the reason we integrate technology, is because it solves a need. So in the current situation, I think that one of the ways that we're seeing technology is the most useful, both in our personal lives and in our classrooms, is to connect. It is a real connector. And I think over anything else, that's the most important thing we can be doing, whether, no matter how our remote learning environment is taking place right now. All schools are treating it very differently, and how it's set up is so different among different schools. But looking to tools to help kids stay connected to one another, to help preserve the peer-to-peer learning that can happen, those to me are the most important things for right now. Back to your question, what's the book about? So it's my journey. And so it starts with 2010, which was a turning point for me as a teacher. The year before that, I was teaching AP Calculus for the second year, and I just felt like I didn't have enough time to individualize with my students. I didn't have enough time for the relationship building that I was so excited to have as a teacher. I just wasn't the teacher that I had dreamed of being. And so I went to a conference that summer. And when I was there, I just learned about screencasting. Camtasia was there, a company that creates the screencasting tool. And I learned about that. And I knew that that was a piece of my answer. I was going to offload that traditional lecture to video. And then in the classroom, we could do the more fun stuff, which was solving problems and me helping them get through that. And so that was the start of it for me. That was when I saw technology as the solution to help me personalize in the classroom. And so I flipped my classroom back then. And since then, it's been an evolution. So I talk about that in the book too, that it wasn't like, oh, I went from, my normal classroom that had this problem into this amazing flipped classroom. No, I started by creating some video lectures. That was all I did in the first year. Then the second year, I did it in another class. And then the third year, I started looking to other tech tools. And I then talk about how, another thing that really bugged me as a teacher was this hand raising, because I was that introverted student in the classroom who was such a perfectionist that it was just hard for me to always raise my hand and be able to answer on the spot. I am also just a processor. I need some more time to sit and think. And so, how could I allow my students to have a different experience than I could. And so I started looking at some tools, and Pear Deck became a real big tool for me in my classroom. In that respect, I was able to then allow all students to contribute to the conversation without having to raise their hand. I could give them enough wait time. They could kind of go through some of the questions at their own pace, and then we could still bring it to the board. So we could still have that conversation, but I could also just allow everybody to answer in an environment that was best for them. For some of them, it was typing it. For some of them, it was drawing it. For some of them, it was raising their hand. And so that's kind of the evolution that I talk about. And I also talk about the key tech tools that have helped me build deeper relationships with my students. And that is my hope from that people will get from reading the book, is really how I've looked to technology to solve problems. And it's not so much about the tools. I do take you through the tools that I have chosen that have been solutions for me. But I hope that when people read it, they'll see my process for choosing those tools, because the tools you choose may be different than the ones I chose, but how I thought through why I was going to implement them and how I implemented them is kind of my goal to share.
In other words, if you're listening to this, you need to go buy the book. That's what she's
Best book ever is what she's saying.
Like, I love your reasoning for it. And I love how deep you got into with us. What is included? That's exactly where I was hoping you'd go with it. And I mean, just go get the book, guys. Like that's the most important thing right now. So I really appreciate that. That was awesome. Thank you very much for that. So I want to dive in. One of the things we talk a lot about on this on the podcast is failure. And I always, sort of joke, but also mean that I say that I've been fortunate enough to fail a lot because I've learned from all of that. And I may not have loved the failures when they happen, but I love being able to reflect back. I still think back. I'll run into something now that a failure that I had 12 years ago helps me through.
Sure.
And so I love talking about it. I love sharing it. So could you share a story with us about a time you've had a failure? Sort of take us there with you. What happened? How did you overcome that failure and that challenge? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you about a challenge, maybe a personality, something that I've worked on personally that I think has shaped the educator that I've become. So I kind of touched on this, but perfectionism and introversion really took a toll on me when I was growing up. And I do get very personal in Tech with Heart in taking you through that journey because I went through a lot of hard times. And a lot of it was just that perfectionism is a really, that's like one of my biggest flaws in life. I feel like I think that so many times you're praised for going that extra mile and always being reliable and all of that, but it can take a real internal toll. And so Tech with Heart was the first time I've talked so deeply about it. But having experienced that, I think has made me the teacher that I am. It's allowed me to help so many of my students who deal with the same, because so many of us do, and also to help reframe what being the perfect student might be. Because for me, I thought perfect student meant getting the highest grades, earning perfect marks. You get praised over getting an A+ and bringing it home to your parents. And now that I'm an educator, I understand that that's not what being the perfect student means. And I try so hard to help students who struggle with that same thing, to help them kind of reframe. And, when they take a risk and they maybe don't do as well as they could have if they had taken the safer route, I make sure to let them know that, what they did was such a positive, and that was part of being, I don't want to say that that's part of them being more perfect, but I just want them to understand that being a perfect student, being the best that they can be, is not synonymous with an A+ on their report card. And so, yeah.
No, I think that's so important to echo, though, is that we kind of have this idea growing up what good looks like. And now that you've found a better balance for that, it makes a massive impact on not only your happiness, but your impact that you can have on others.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that, was really hard for me going through school, and maybe why I talk about a tool like Pear Deck a lot, is, it wasn't just that I was afraid to raise my hand, but I also just am a slower processor. And, I'm not even talking about a kid who has like a learning need or a special accommodation or any of that. I'm just talking about different people process at different rates. Different people are ready to talk up at different rates. I mean, even as adults, we see that all the time during faculty meetings. Like the same people are always the one to be the first people to speak up. And they're not always the ones who are the only ones that have something to say. And sometimes you'll hear from people afterwards in an email and, you're like, wow, that was such a powerful contribution, but they needed that extra time after the meeting to kind of think about it and then email you after the fact. And so I think too, that's, why I've been so invested and interested in looking to technology to allow students to contribute their voice in different ways.
Stacey, I literally think you're my favorite human being on the planet. I couldn't agree more with everything. And I was a student with an IEP, so I couldn't agree more with this whole idea and your passion for it. If there was an awkward way to compliment you on a podcast, it would not only be that I love what you're saying, but I love how you're saying it, because I feel like your passion for this topic is like, it oozes out of you, and it's through audio, which is so odd. It kind of goes well with the question I'm going to ask you, and I think you're going to stay in a similar realm for this. It's just my prediction. But, when I ask you what fuels your fire, like what keeps you excited about education, do you think that your answer has to do with what you were just talking about? Or is there something else that you feel like is really keeping you excited about education?
I think that whole educator community, and, like even you see that Better Together hashtag on so many educators' tweets. And I do feel that's what it's about. I actually was an economic consultant for a little bit before I went into teaching. And when I first began teaching, the thing that overwhelmed me with this positive feeling and made me know that I was in the right spot from the very beginning was the massive amount of resources that people were giving me that I didn't even know how to sort all through. And it was just so different than, kind of the corporate world that I was feeling before. Not that it was totally negative, but it just is different. The educator community is this amazingly inspiring place that comes together and, puts all these resources out there for free all the time. And so I think that even right now in this situation where we're in this crisis, it's been so exciting to be able to share the experiences that I have. And again, because I was an online teacher, I do have these, I had things in place. I kind of had routines set in place that are different, and other people are able to kind of take pieces of that, and it's helpful to them. And so it's, it's an exciting time, even though it's such a difficult time right now. And I think just being able to share and seeing all the ideas that other people have been sharing is exciting. And also knowing that, it's really needed right now.
Yeah, it's really cool to see all the sharing. We've been talking a lot about that. At our Teach Better conference back in November, I was fortunate if I got to speak at the end and talked about sort of this. A lot of people will look at the younger, like a kid doing something fun, and they'll be like, or amazing, and say, that gives me hope for the future. And I stated that it was this room full of all these educators that came from all over the country to get together that fuels my hope for the future, because I see what they're going to have impact on the future. And now I'm looking at this, I'm like, boy, like this is taking it to a whole new level. Watching the level of sharing and compassion, and I've got your back, I'm here for you, and teachers jumping into other teachers like states away and helping and working together. Like, talk about hope for the future. Like, these are the people that are leading our kids. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a crazy situation. Yes, it's a dire situation, and there's a whole lot of bad things we can focus on. But seeing the way, and even if you go outside education too, there's a lot of hopeful things. But just in our world how willing everyone is right now to reach out and help and offer support. It's really, really cool. It really is inspiring. And I think you nailed it, that's just, the industry is always like that. And we're just seeing it to a whole nother level at this point. Just really stepping up. It's really, really cool. So I love that. All right, let's have a little bit of fun now. Right. Not that we haven't had fun the whole time, but we're going to have like specific fun. Now we're allowed to have fun. We weren't allowed to have fun originally. Now you're allowed to have fun. What we're going to do is we're going to do the next 6 questions, and your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
I'm ready. Okay.
What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without? And I have a feeling you can't do this.
I have a 3-way tie, Pear Deck, 5th grade ed puzzle. But it was under 15 seconds.
That was you're right. I got to give it to her. All right. What's a book that you're reading right now?
I am just finished The Great Believers, and it was great. And I also read The Organized Mind, which was very interesting, thinking straight in the age of information overload.
Very cool. Who do we need to follow on Instagram or Twitter today?
I'm going to shout out at Mo Physics.
Yes,
Mo Physics. Yes, he is so great. He is so creative, passionate, always sharing and trying new things.
I'm going to ruin the 15 seconds because we got to shout out Mike. He was one of our favorite guests. We did it live in Wisconsin. Yes. He was amazing. He's so good. He like put off his lunch so that he could do a live record with us. He's awesome.
That is him.
Yeah, so definitely follow him. He's just a good guy all around. What is a good YouTube channel or website for educators?
I'm going to say TED Ed right now. They just launched TED Ed at home to support students, educators, parents that are impacted by school closures. Amazing stuff out there.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Yoga, just some general stretching and strengthening of the body. And then I think another important one, especially right now, is just having a daily shutdown routine.
And what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
To trust your gut. That one's hard for me to do, but trust your gut.
Wait. Can we go back? Can we go back?
What are we going back to?
Okay, because you're great, but I have to know more about this daily shutdown routine because I think I need this. Guys, I've had the worst time sleeping over the past 2 weeks. Can you help me? What is a daily shutdown routine?
Yeah, I wish that I could say I've got this figured out. I don't, but I work on it a lot. But I do. I have my Mac that's set to turn itself off at 9 p.m. I will say that I override that way too often, but I have that. But I also I clear out my files at the end of the day. I kind of get everything off of my desktop, all the screenshots I've taken over the course of the day, get those all out by the end of every day. I make sure that my inbox, I get it down to 0. I use Boomerang, Boomerang that's added in the email, and I reschedule them for when I know that I can get back to it. But I just need to at least I know that I'm going to deal with it at a certain specific set time and it gets out of my head. And so that I don't keep thinking about it. So those are kind of my main things. I try and clear out all my tabs, clear out all the junk I've accumulated on my desktop over the course of the day and get back to inbox 0. And then I shut down my computer.
Okay, here's what I need, Stacey. I need you to write that down and I need you to email it to me and I will live by it because I am so desperate right now for a structured daily shutdown routine, and everything you just said, I'm like, okay, I could do that. Okay, maybe. Okay. So I really need you to be like my daily shutdown routine guru. Can you handle that?
I can email you my plan and maybe we can just be buddies and hold each other accountable. My problem is that I then use my phone and I go on Twitter. So
I need to adopt this. I'm going to do it right away. And anyone listening who also needs this, we can all kind of start our own club because obviously with us all being at home, this is so something I need. So Stacey, you just solved all of my problems all within one podcast episode. That's awesome.
I wish.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure our listeners can not only connect with you to, have further discussion about this daily shutdown routine, but also with all the other pieces that you shared and also what you'll continue to share to support educators, your amazing book, and everything in between. I want to make sure people stay connected. So how can people stay connected to you?
Thanks. All right. So Twitter will go on first, and my Twitter handle is at BuddyXO. You guys met my dog right before this. His name is Buddy, and I love him, and that's what BuddyXO was named after. And then my blog is techiemusings.com. And I also have a YouTube channel. I've been putting out a lot more ed tech content, so tutorials for teachers and students, but I also have full curriculum of AP Calculus and Algebra 2 on there. And so you can find me on YouTube / my name, Stacey Roshan. And then, of course, my book, Tech with Heart.
Awesome. And you can find all the links and all the resources that we mentioned in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Stacey, getting your hands on the book, and everything like that. So make sure you head over and check out the show notes at teachbetter.com for that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And I want to keep us still taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and all this value, and share this podcast with them. Stacey, this was awesome. You did not disappoint. So awesome to have you on. Really appreciate you diving in and sharing so much of your story. And there's so much value in this episode. I'm super excited for everyone to hear it. Just thank you.
Thank you.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.